Hey guys, it's 5:10 and it's Easter Sunday still, March 31st. I actually prefer Easter in April. I don't know why. It just has a nice feel to it. March is still very often on the cold side or a little raw. Um, April we start slipping in more and more nice days, and I don't know. Easter being the resurrection just feels like it should be on a warm spring day. Doesn't have to be hot, but just a nice warm day. Just my thoughts on the subject. We take the days as they come. The actuality of yoga is equanimity. And Bhagavad Gita, um, sorry, I'm going to send out a little message here. The Bhagavad Gita talks about equanimity. If you want to know about yoga, read the Bhagavad Gita. Um, let's see. We'll get to that. Bhagavad Gita on equanimity. Yoga is equanimity, steadiness of mind, not being swayed, coming back to center. And anytime you do a balance pose, you know that well. Coming back to center with the mind every time. Life is going to sway you. Life is going to blow you down. Life is going to bowl you over. It's what life does. However, through the practice of yoga, and remember, yoga means steadiness of mind, we learn the art of equanimity. Don't go too far up with the ups. We don't go too far down with the downs. So this is blog reading time. I have not picked a blog post to read yet, but I wrote about Easter today, so maybe I'll read my Easter blog, and then we'll scroll through and see what else comes up. Always something to read. So we'll start with that. We'll start with the Easter post, and then we'll scroll through the blog. We'll see what else comes up. And then I want to read and talk about what I was just saying, equanimity, the Bhagavad Gita, that Bhagavad Gita, maybe even more so than Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Every yogi, and guess what? You're all yogis, every single one of you, even if you don't practice yoga. Remember, yoga means yoke, to join together. It's union with God, steadiness of mind, bringing the mind and the body and the spirit into that union so that we realize God. And since we are already joined in union, but we most often don't realize it, we're already yogis. Yoga is the art of revealing ourselves, revealing our true selves. You don't have to do a single pose, a single asana. You don't have to do, sorry, my cat is insisting for some attention. You don't have to do any breath work. You don't have to even sit in meditation. I recommend all of those. I do think you need to practice the ethical foundations of yoga. But the path of yoga is wide and varied. It's deep. So what you do, what your practice is, hey, you could do 100 burpees a day and be a yogi. As long as you're cultivating that equanimity of mind. So you would think I'd recommend the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras first, as that's the entire path of yoga laid out right there. But there's something about the daily, the Bhagavad Gita for daily living that, I don't know, just pulls me in. It's a mystical text that is so astoundingly practical. Where else do you get that from? I actually don't know of any other. Maybe the Yoga Sutras. I don't know. But I think my heart belongs to the Bhagavad Gita, although I've been in deep study of the Yoga Sutras lately. As well, uh, there's a lot of them. But the Upanishads, with the Upanishads, you get there's so many of them, and it stems from cosmology to meditation and everything in between. So you got a lot to choose from there. So we're going to chat just a bit longer, and then I'm going to get down and read. I usually wait to read just a little bit, like 10 minutes. That way, if anyone comes in, they're not like in mid reading and thinking, what is this guy rambling on about? He makes no sense whatsoever. If anyone comes in, I've given that lots of thought the past few days. I don't want to say it doesn't matter to me if people come in or they don't, because I certainly enjoy the company. But honestly, the conversation takes place regardless. Don't really need an audience for what I'm doing here in these live streams, because I don't consider myself a teacher. I don't consider myself a yoga instructor. I do teach meditation. I do teach breath work. I'm just someone who shares yoga and other things of importance to me, nature, all the stuff I write about. And if that captures someone's attention or imagination and they join in the conversation, all the better. But I'm going to be sharing anyway. As well, I've taken to heart the artistic nature of these live streams. So being able to come here and just talk Jack Kerouac style, Neil Cassidy style, where he would just rap continuously, even if he didn't have an audience. Not just to hear his own voice, although with Neil Cassidy, maybe not. For those who are familiar with On the Road, Jack Kerouac, Neil Cassidy, driving across the country, hopping trains, living the beatnik life. Awesome time. Some of my favorite. Someone asked me what my favorite book was the other day, and I mentioned several, and I left off the Dharma Bums, which I read every couple of years. Any book that I read religiously every couple of years is obviously up there on my favorites. So I'm going to read from the blog. We're almost at 9 minutes in. And this was titled, I can always read it again, A Beautiful Forgiveness. And it is about Easter. It's about resurrection, and it's about forgiveness. A Beautiful Forgiveness. My formative years were steeped in Christian values. Attending Catholic school from first grade to my freshman year of high school, before leaving for a public institution in my remaining 3 years. My family wasn't overly religious, only occasionally going to Mass, but nonetheless I felt a strong connection to the Church, or more truly said, to the deep mystery that it offered. And Easter was my favorite holiday, resurrection, that Jesus rose from the dead and that my sins were to be forgiven. It's a beautiful message, and I felt deeply the suffering that was involved. Jesus being forced to carry his own cross, whipped and mocked before nailed and left to show to slowly perish in the heat of the sun. Except Jesus didn't wither. He forgave from the cross and bestowed the ultimate act of empathy, whispering to his Father that his torturers did not know the true extent of their actions. They were ignorant of their most basic actions. A beautiful forgiveness. Years later, I discovered this same psychological truth in yoga. Avidya, the root foundation of the kleshas that explains all of our suffering in life. Avidya is translated from Sanskrit to mean ignorance, explaining that we are unaware of being the cause of our own suffering. We know not what we do, quite literally so, blind to our aversions and attachments, colliding through life in a deep fear of death driving our behavior, and oblivious to the mistakes, to the mistaken belief in an ego-based reality. We're in need of a resurrection, a beautiful forgiveness. And that's what yoga offers us, a path for our salvation, not for the sake of our souls and eternity in heaven, but for this life now, recognizing that we are reborn within each instant, an Easter for every moment we're alive. That's the lesson from the cross. We're ignorant of our action, and forgiving ourselves of this ignorance gives us an opportunity of rebirth to a new insight of going forward into a greater light of true awareness. Jesus from the cross offers us this vision of a reality, a clear seeing of our awareness, a beautiful forgiveness. So, that was about Easter. And there were some typos there. Milka McCarty here, and she says, hi. Hello, Milka. I hope you're, well, I know you're feeling better, but I hope you're feeling better than the last time I checked. I'm editing. I read my blog post, and I really should edit before I post, and I never edit before I post. And then I read, and I realize the mistakes that I've made. Something about reading out loud, and you can capture the energy of the reading, but at the same time, every little mistake or everything you think you should have done better when you originally wrote it comes glaringly obvious. All right. Did anyone who's here catch what I read? And if you did, or if you didn't, I could read it again, if anyone is interested in hearing it. I will be scrolling through and maybe reading something else, but this was what I wrote today. I hardly ever read what I write the first day. I usually scroll through and I find things that leap out and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to read. I'll go through it again. I'll read it slow. If anyone's heard it already, my apologies. Mocha said I didn't catch what you read earlier, so I will read it just for Mocha. It is called A Beautiful Forgiveness. A beautiful forgiveness. My formative years were steeped in Christian values, attending Catholic school from first grade to my freshman year of high school, before leaving for a public institution in my remaining 3 years. My family wasn't overly religious, only occasionally going to Mass, but nonetheless I felt a strong connection to the Church, or more truly said, to the deep mystery that it offered. And Easter was my favorite holiday. Resurrection, that Jesus rose from the dead, and that my sins were to be forgiven. It's a beautiful message, and I felt deeply the suffering that was involved. Jesus being forced to carry his own cross, whipped and mocked before being nailed and left slowly to perish in the heat of the sun. Except Jesus didn't wither. He forgave from the cross and bestowed the ultimate act of empathy, whispering to the heavens, to his Father, that his torturers did not know the true extent of their actions. They were ignorant of their most basic behavior. A beautiful forgiveness. Years later, and I discovered this same psychological truth in yoga, avidya, the root foundation of the kleshas that explains all of our suffering in life. Avidya is translated from Sanskrit to mean ignorance, explaining that we are unaware of being the cause of our own suffering. We know not what we do, quite literally so, blind to our aversions and attachments, colliding through life in a deep fear of death that drives our behavior, and oblivious of mistaken beliefs in an ego-based reality. We're in need of a resurrection, a beautiful forgiveness. And that's what yoga offers us, a path for our salvation, not for the sake of souls and eternity in heaven, but for this life now, recognizing that we are reborn within each instant, and Easter for every moment we're alive. That's the lesson from the cross. We're ignorant of our actions, and forgiving ourselves of this ignorance gives us an opportunity of rebirth to a new insight going forward into a greater light of true awareness. Jesus from the cross offers us this vision of reality, a clear seeing of our awareness, a beautiful forgiveness. And that's it. It's a happy Easter. What I wanted to do, I seldom ever set out with a message. I just write, and what comes out, comes out. But as you write, things begin to take shape, and you begin to see the middle part and the ending part. And it was only when I hit that middle that I saw that I could tie that together with the kleshas. The kleshas are the psychological layers that keep us trapped within suffering. With suffering being different than grief and sorrow and sadness and depression. Those are things that happen through life because we're alive. Suffering, is when we are unable or unwilling to accept that those things are occurring right now. It's why when someone is grieving and you often hear someone say, it'll pass, it'll get over, do something constructive, get it out of your mind, things like that. Instead of simply putting your arms around someone and saying, maybe nothing. Maybe just that touch alone is enough. Maybe being there in silence with someone. We don't need to be lifted out of those occasions. We just need to be held in those occasions. And avidya is that ignorance of that these things are happening, that we are trying to escape what the moment offers, that we are trying to push it away, refusing to accept it, or our attachments, that we are attached to certain things and we fear losing them. We don't even enjoy what we have because we're so afraid of losing them. And of course, the fear of death and the mistaken belief in this ego-based reality. But the number one cause of suffering is our ignorance of all of that. That's what forgiveness brings us back to. Let me get caught up here. Destiny says, hello, Eric. How are you? I'm good. How are you? And Destiny says, hello, Mocha. How are you feeling? And she feels like a sloth moving. But from what she told me earlier, she's at least more pain-free, hopefully still, than you were. Elisa's here. Hi, Destiny Forever Walks, PhD. We never forget the PhD. I always remember putting out there because I just want to honor the work that went in to get that, to achieve that. It's no small thing. Um, and Destiny says, praying for you, Mocha, to be totally recovered and healed from the pain immediately. Awful nice of you. Much appreciated, Destiny. And we got Destiny saying hello, Elise, and sup, Elise from Mocha. And a thanks, Dr. Destiny. So for me, yeah, Easter, such a beautiful holiday. Steeped in forgiveness, steeped in lessons, steeped in what the resurrection really means. We are all capable of being resurrected. I think I mentioned a couple of days ago, the Course in Miracles saying the true lesson of the cross is that we can all survive our own crucifixion. Our friend Squirrel Sniper is here, greeting beautiful souls. Never forget the 3 powerful resources you always have available to you: love, prayer, and forgiveness. Perfectly and beautifully said, Squirrel Sniper. Love, prayer, and forgiveness. Yeah, I've been talking quite a bit about forgiveness. To me, that's the resurrection gets all the glory, and maybe it should. But I never forget Jesus on the cross looked up in heaven as he was at the peak of his suffering and said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And again, that ties right into yoga with me. How many people know what they're doing? People think they are. We'd love to think that we're captain of our own ship of destiny, that we have free will. But we're mentally and emotionally so tied up in the thought process, believing in our every belief, having opinions on our every opinion, and never questioning, where did this opinion even come from? Where do these thoughts come from? Where do these beliefs come from? Just because I have them doesn't mean they're true, and yet I'm so invested in the belief. And if we just entertain a little bit of uncertainty, our entire life will change, because now we're free. Now we're open. We're not tied to anything. They don't have to believe this. I can be wrong. I can let things go. It's life-changing, world-changing. And to me, it stems from forgiveness, forgiving myself for my mistaken certainty that everything I think is true and is of the utmost importance, instead of just being an energetic process in my head. It's the ego that is invested in the ego, while loving awareness is witness to it all. And who we are is loving awareness. Easily discovered. Who's aware of the thought you're having right now? Who's aware of your body? Who's aware of touching your face? I'm doing that for a reason. Who's aware of, well, at first I wasn't doing it for a reason, but then I thought, you know what? I can use this. So, Squirrel Sniper, thank you for that. Again, that was beautifully said. And it's so important to remember, especially when you consider the true art of prayer. Conversation with God, conversation with life, conversation with whatever higher value, higher purpose, higher reality. Not that this is really a higher or a lower. Destiny is saying grand afternoon to Squirrel Sniper, late evening for Squirrel Sniper. 22:30. Mocha will know what time that is, being military. Squirrel Sniper says, good to see you, Destiny. And likewise, Squirrel Sniper. Squirrel Sniper says, we must forgive, but never forget the name of your enemies. Or, for me, just me, give up the concept of enemies. Doesn't mean not being watchful, obviously. But as I often love to talk about, I could probably just stop there and people will say he does love to talk. Um, Forgiveness sets you free. It's not about you and the other person, it's about you. Why chain yourself to something that has occurred in the past? Has no bearing on this moment except when you remember it. And if you let it go and if you forgive it, I always mention my favorite from Mark Twain, that forgiveness is the fragrance released from the violet upon the heel that has crushed it. Squirrel Sniper is dropping some more wisdom here, some more important wisdom. How unhappy is he who cannot forgive himself? So true. Spot on. Again, Sniper. Jesus didn't look down from the cross and say, I'm going to forgive you and you. Not you. Not quite yet. And definitely not you. I don't like the way you're looking at me. Jesus had the realization of his loving awareness, which doesn't discriminate, holds everyone in love and in awareness. It just accepts and accepts and accepts. Look around. Hold everything. That's awareness. You don't get to pick and choose awareness. You can pick and choose your attention, but attention isn't awareness. Attention is that laser focus of awareness on a particular thing. We use that in meditation. We use that holding a yoga pose. We use that when we're creating something. But the awareness itself is what, when we're laser focused on something, it's awareness that's pumping our heart, that's providing us inspiration, that is making the hand move, that's expanding the lungs, that is livering the liver, spleening the spleen, whatever the spleen actually does. I'm sure it does something. I think Destiny might know what the spleen does. Annalise says, greetings, everyone. Thank you, Elise. Yeah, forgiveness is vital to a happy life. And again, it's not because it's going to heal anything that happened to you and that person or that event or that thing, but it sets you free completely. You're healing your own wound, not the wound of someone else. That's their responsibility. And the best that you can do for them, if you did want to help, is to heal yourself. Because it's awful hard with two broken people to heal. But if it's each of those broken people make that effort to heal themselves, and they come together in that healing, and they support each other for that healing, then it becomes a truly, truly beautiful thing. Squirrel Sniper says, attention can be misdirected by other means. True. Dungeon programming for one. Yeah, excellent point. Elise says, it took a lifetime for me to release my animosity towards others until I realized they were just lessons, nothing more, nothing less. And on that day, I was reborn, forgiving myself and others. And it's so truly freeing. Beautifully said, Elise. The thing with when you really do steep yourself in that energy of the heart center of loving awareness, and you see that it's doesn't discriminate anything but just accepts, That's what awareness does. Um, and you realize that it's always taking place now, this moment. And if everything is taking place this moment, then what has occurred right now that needs to be forgiven? Right now. Teacher of mine, Cyril Bob Adamson, who was a student, a disciple, for however briefly, of Nisargadatta Maharishi, wrote a wonderful book based on one of his talks. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? And that puts you right in the moment. And of course, you start thinking about it, and you start thinking, well, my toe hurts, I have a headache, I got a bad haircut, but you're thinking about it. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? Anything that puts you in the center, anything that puts you back in the moment, where we never actually leave, but our mind tends to project in all directions. But anything that puts us back here for the center, even for an instant, and it's that instant realization. And Zen, they'll call it satori. We have this instant awakening. You string enough those together, and you have an awakening life, an awakened life. It's my friend Robert Saltzman, author of the 10,000 Things, and Depending on No Thing, says, awakening never ends. And I love that. That's why a lot of people think the path of yoga is one heading towards enlightenment, as if it's the final goal. But I'd much rather think of it as awakening. And awakening starts when you have that satori, or when you put your first foot on the yoga mat, or when you sit down in meditation, or you find the right book that gives you these valuable secrets, or when you have a conversation with people like Dr. Destiny, and Mocha, and Elise, and Squirrel Sniper, and our friend Flower, who is here. Destiny says, forgiveness is outward. Just my thought, Eric. It's an interesting thought. Oops, I actually missed one from Destiny. Let me get back to that. I always say, Eric, that your enemies are the battles that are within us, that which we refuse to forgive, to love, and to go to those things which serve us any purposes. Freedom is inward. I agree. Freedom is definitely inward. And that, I'm glad you said that, because that gives us an opportunity to talk the Bhagavad Gita and equanimity. As I was saying at the beginning of the talk, that yoga is equanimity, equanimity of the mind. And the Bhagavad Gita actually has the line, chapter 2, verse 48, that the yogi is, what is yoga is equanimity. What is equanimity is yoga. Eventually, I'm going to have a hard time saying equanimity over and over again. Flower said, hi, you're live already? I am. I thought you'd be live at 5 for you. No, sorry, 5 for me. A little after 5. I think it was about 5:10 or so when I got here. Elise says, Destiny Forever Walks PhD. Very well said. Beautiful. Yes, it was. Destiny has a way of dropping beautiful and insightful. Hey, our friend Ian's godson is here. How you doing today? I'm good, E. How are you? So, I like pointing out people's channels. If you guys don't know E, man, he puts out wonderful live streams. He does some great shorts as well. And he's just a really good guy with a beautiful message that he puts out. I'm awful glad that he is a friend, that he comes here and says hi. And he will leave some awesome comments on my nature shorts and my burpee videos. I gotta say, um, not everyone appreciates the burpee videos. It's an acquired taste. I fully understand it. Not everyone wants to hang out in the basement with a bald 58-year-old doing burpees. So it's totally understandable. Um, so, and you saying, how you doing? I'm doing well. I hope you are too. Let's see. Destiny says, thanks for the kind remarks, Elise. And Flower says, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been live? I never mind you asking. It's been 36 minutes. Destiny says, he has got son. Blessings to you. How are you today, Eric? Again, I just want to say how much I appreciate him being here. Always nice when he stops by. So this is what Krishna told Arjuna. Arjuna is the prince, the archer in the Bhagavad Gita, who is forced. His kingdom is split in half. He's got family on both sides, and they're going to war with each other. And he is in deep despair. Anything that he's going to do is going to hurt a family member. Is going to hurt a loved one. How can he fight? So he throws his weapons down, and he turns to his charioteer, the driver of his chariot, who happens to be Krishna. Krishna being a divine aspect of God, and who is sort of disguised as a charioteer. Arjuna knows who he is, but maybe doesn't truly realize it until midway through the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna reveals his true self, destroyer of worlds, as well as rising, and the maker of worlds, which is what Oppenheim quoted when he saw the first atomic bomb. That's the power of Krishna. So Krishna tells Arjuna, don't despair. It is your duty. It's your duty. This will tie in with some talk with Destiny. It's your duty as a karma yogi to perform your actions. But if you perform it for the sake of me, Krishna, God, love, then you are free from the results of karma itself. That's how you escape the wheel of karma, is everything is done for the sake of God. Selfless service isn't done for the sake of what do I get in return. It's done because you are serving God through the appearance of other people. Every person is God in every one of his most distressing disguises. I knew it would come out eventually. So here, again in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 48, I highly recommend the Bhagavad Gita to every yogi and non-yogi. And as I mentioned at the beginning, everyone's a yogi in their own way. Flower says, wow, I'm late. You know what, Flower? You're always on time. Always appreciate when you're here. Flower, interesting question. How long do you think a human being should live? Just at least. Everyone should live the exact moment that they're alive. And by being alive, I mean fully engaged in life. And that will vary from person to person. My father stayed engaged in life until his very last moment. He had mentioned that he thought he should have died when he was 91 instead of 94. But I had 3 wonderful years left with him. I'm glad he didn't. And physically, he declined a lot in his last 3 or 4 months, but mentally he stayed sharp and engaged. He had concern for the world. He had concern and love for his family. Um, and I had some wonderful talks with him, and I didn't mind in the least um, the care that I had to do for my father. I'm getting a little uh, misty-eyed thinking about the whole thing. I can't help but think about those years with my father without getting sorry. It'll pass. Um, and exactly, destiny. Uh, Flower, you are never late. At whatever time you show up, that is the time you were appointed to be here. Exactly. That's God's divine timing. And Flower says, destiny, that feels right. It does. You know what? That's an insightful thing that you said, Flower, that it feels right. When it feels right, it's right. When you really feel it, when you feel it in your heart center, when you feel it in every fiber of your body, not when you pause and you say, I think that feels right, or that might be right, or it certainly is right, but when we feel it, when we intuit it. It's an important distinction. And as we've often mentioned here, you are wise and insightful beyond your years. So, this is what Krishna said. Be steadfast in the performance of your duty, Arjuna, abandoning attachments to success and failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Abandoning your attachment to success and failure, that frees you to the action itself. You're committed to the action. You're committed to the path. You're not concerned about success. You're not concerned about failure. Those are just measurements of the mind, distinctions that don't actually exist. Especially when you're true to your own path, when you're a karma yogi and you are performing everything for the sake of selfless service. Destiny said, you must live full and die empty. Always live life to the fullest and exhaust and take everything out of life and leave nothing left behind, no regrets. You truly take nothing with you when you go, so give it away while you're alive, and then you have the enjoyment of giving, giving, giving. Nothing feels better. Flower, when you come here, you give us the gift of your company, of your presence, of your insights, of your good humor. It's a big gift. Everyone's giving in their own way, and it's important to realize, what am I giving? Am I giving the things that I wish for? Am I giving the things that bring joy and make a difference in people's lives? Or am I giving the things that don't serve anyone, including myself? When you walk away, you go to a live stream session, if you walk away after putting out some negativity, let's just leave it at negativity, you don't walk away feeling good. But if you come in and you bring a little bit of joy, a little bit of kindness, a little bit of compassion, even if you don't like the conversation, you always leave feeling a little better because you left something joyful and positive behind. Elise says, I remember your father being ever present in his final years. He always took time to engage with his beautiful stories. He was definitely a storyteller. One of his last conversations with the hospice nurse, the night he came home and the night he passed away, he told the story of when he was born and his brother, it was in a snowstorm in February in the mountains in Pennsylvania, his brother had to hook a horse up to a sleigh to fetch the doctor from across a mountain. By the time he got back, my father was born. And here you are, following his exact legacy, circle of life. He is ever present. Thank you, Elise. I very deeply appreciate that. Flower says, I don't think any child around 7 to 17 should ever know how bad life gets. Um, I feel that would be unfair, off topic. Now, you know what? We don't have any topics. We talk, we have conversations, and we see where the conversation goes. Um, I definitely understand wanting to protect every child's innocence. Hey, I'm going to be 59 in 17 days, 18 days, and I still try to protect my innocence. I wrote something years ago about that, about our original innocence, that we never left the garden, that I remind myself um, of my original innocence quite often. I have to look that up and find what I exactly wrote. It is in one of my books that I could always go through. I don't often show these, but these are little books that I published a long time ago. Still available on Amazon. If anyone is ever interested. It is a different style of writing than I do now. There was a long period of time when poetry just seemed very spontaneously to leap on the page. I felt very inspired, very much in love with love, and a love affair with life. And every time I sat down to write, some form of poetry would come out. The love affair itself hasn't diminished, but the expression has, which is how life works. Destiny says, leave nothing behind means to do everything while you live to achieve success and to fulfill your own dreams. You don't take your ideas and dreams to your grave. You create everything you want in life now. I think it was Wayne Dyer. He said, don't die with your music still in you. So sing now. So what the songbirds do. They don't wait. When it's time for a songbird to sing, a songbird sings. There's no hesitation. It doesn't say, let me warm up my voice. What's the audience like? I feel a little embarrassed. A songbird sings because it's the nature of a songbird to offer a song. In our hearts, each and every one of us has a songbird. Doesn't need to rehearse. Doesn't need to be ready. Doesn't even think about being embarrassed or not being embarrassed. It just sings. And yet, here I'm talking about the heart again. It's a heart that wants to sing, but it's the brain, it's the mind, it's our thoughts, it's the ego that is judging and saying you're not good enough to sing. You need to practice more. What if someone laughs? So, you would think it might be a battle between the ego, the mind, and the heart. It isn't, because the heart is patient and always loving and always aware, and it will outweigh the ego. However, the more you come in touch and contact with your heart center, the more it takes precedence. And you begin to smile at the ego. Ego doesn't go away. Squirrel Sniper and I talked about this the other day. There's not really need to eradicate the ego. There's no need to battle it. If it's viewed in loving awareness, it's seen for what it is, and you don't have to do anything. Its energy naturally diminishes, and then the heart center just expands wider and wider and wider to its true and natural capacity. And you start to sing spontaneously. As I was talking earlier today with Destiny about Niskara yoga, natural yoga, based on spontaneity. And I talked about this with Elise as well, based on spontaneity and effortlessness. And that's what every song is, spontaneous and without effort. So, Flower, sing your song, whatever that is, and it'll change through life. Sometimes in life, it might be a ballad. Sometimes it might be a sad song, a heartbroken song. Sometimes it might be singing praise, singing gospel. You might be like Odom in his garden, who just spontaneously is so full of joy for being in his garden that he has to sing and sing and sing. And I absolutely love when he does. Flower says, I didn't really know this for a long time, but I think as my country was in bad shape, and was very late developing, and some inside was going on, I just want the freedom of others, much like you. Um, I hope you get it. I hope your country gets it. It is deserved. We all deserve that freedom. I always want to show it, my melatonin and ashwagandha, which is an Ayurvedic herb. Great for relaxing, naturally, of course. I try to take it about an hour before I go to sleep. It's not so much to help me fall asleep as it helps me stay asleep through the night. So the equanimity that we're talking about in yoga, here's a fun fact. William Shakespeare was a yogi, and he probably didn't even know of the word yoga. I'm actually pretty sure he didn't. In his line from Hamlet, nothing is good nor bad unless thinking makes it so. Beautiful line that I first read maybe in my teens, maybe earlier. I made a valid attempt to read Shakespeare in middle school. And of course I did, but I didn't understand it really. But you read a line like that, and it makes an impression, and it deepens over time. Elise said in Sedona, we hiked up to the high red rocks, beautiful red rocks, and sang, danced, and even screamed to release. That's the way to do it. And Sedona begs for your release. It's that energy there that just literally invokes it from you. That leave it here, leave it all here, leave all the baggage here, and the energy, the land, the red rocks, the sun, the desert heat will take care of it all. That's the nature of energetic vortex. So, equanimity in yoga, demonstrated in the postures. I write often, one of my favorite postures is the tree pose, because I'm balancing and I'm going to fall. If I get caught up in the fact that I'm going to fall, I'm never even going to enter the pose to begin with. Why bother? I'm going to fall. If I get in the pose and I hold it for a second and I start thinking, this isn't going to last, I'm going to fall, I'm probably going to fall. It's okay to fall. Perfectly okay to fall. That's equanimity. You know in life you're going to fall. And you know that you're going to get back up. And you know you're going to keep on going. And through that entire process, you have a very well lived, very well loved life. Because you're not afraid of making mistakes. You're not afraid of failing. Or I can actually uh, hear destiny in my head saying, you're not making any mistakes. You're getting feedback. What are you going to do with that? That's what matters. I know it's a good sign when I'm channeling destiny in my head. That means I'm on the right track. Um, Flower says, I like this theory. The funny friend in the group being the most traumatized, and dull one in the group. It's kind of ironic how the funny one, isn't it? It is ironic. Interesting. It's an interesting theory. So, if you reframe those concepts of failure, what would you do? That's going back to Sylla Bob Adamson's um, what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it. That means you're free, effortless, spontaneous. Everything's just happening. Not a mistake because it happened. You could say mistakes don't happen. And if you think about it, it means we're just always moving on. We're always, life is a process. It's change. It's motion. It's karma. Karma itself. Karma meaning motion. Um, so we are not separate from life. That means we're continuing too. We're that motion itself, ever flowing, ever present, ever aware, ever loving. It takes a whole lot of pressure off of you because now you can try everything. You can try everything you've ever dreamed of because you're not going to fail. Are you going to get the results that you might have expected when you started? Maybe not, but that doesn't mean that it's a failure. It just means it's different. And you know what? Maybe you will get the exact thing that you set out for. You don't know unless you give yourself to the motion itself. Queen Kaylin? Am I pronouncing your the last part right? Kaylin? Hello, my friend. How are you? Appreciate you being here. We're having a fun conversation about all kinds of stuff. About thinking, about forgiveness, about equanimity, about yoga, about mistakes, failures, the lack of mistakes, the last of failures, love. I did mention forgiveness, right? And whatever else that we want to put out there. So I mentioned quite a bit that I don't know if I can make the small income that I need from YouTube to get by. And it is a relatively small income. I could get a part-time job, but I have this vision of earning that income with just enough. I'm not searching for any big things. My goal is to simply be alive, to simply love life, to simply keep doing what I'm doing, and to earn that income through creative means, through inspiration, rather than sweating it out. Nothing matters sweating it out, and I've had jobs like that in the past. But again, I have the vision now of doing it through creative sources. No idea if I can do it. Doesn't matter. It's not the end result. It's not the goal. It's the process. Giving myself to the process, which means coming here and having really wonderful conversations with really wonderful people. There's no failure. It's a win-win across the board. Let's see. Thank you for your insight, Flower. You appreciate it. She certainly is. And Flower says, I know most people hate school uh, or just doesn't like going to school, but I actually love going to school, and I don't even know why. I'm excited to go this morning. Good for you. I did not like school. I can't think of any aspect of school that I really liked. Not even lunch, not even gym. Um, but I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you enjoy it. Elise is saying hello to Queen, and Jesse says, Eric, thanks for another great discussion with you in the chat. This was awesome, and I am leaving now, and we'll catch you all later. Enjoy the rest of the day or night. Blessings, peace, and love. And Flower says, Miss Elise, thank you for saying that. Indeed, Elise, thank you for saying that to Flower, because everyone needs to hear such kind words. So, Destiny is going to be leaving us. I'll talk for a couple more minutes and call it a night too. I had been wanting to talk about equanimity and karma yoga for quite some time. Destiny had some questions about what constituted a karma yogi. The key is karma yogi is not attached to the outcome of their actions because it's all surrendered. That goes back to there can't be any mistakes. If you are not attached to the fruits of your actions, Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that you are entitled to your actions, but not the fruits of your actions because they belong to me alone. All of your actions belong to God. We are granted the action itself, and truly, that's what we live for. Lisa's saying, welcome to Flower. Flower says, I just mainly like the activities we do there and my friends, not the learning. I think that was a little bit of the difference for me, Flowers, was I didn't really like too many of the people that I was with. I did like a lot of the learning. I didn't like the people. I don't like how the learning took place. I went to a Catholic school, so I had very strict nuns for the most part. A little amazing to me how quite a few of the nuns in high school, my first year in high school, some of the brothers that we had were not very nice people. It seems to me that the path of Jesus truly is the path of the heart. We don't really view Jesus as this firm taskmaster making people do things. Jesus is inviting people into the flock, into the fold. And yet, somehow, the people who became his most devout followers seem to become hard and rigid, unforgiving, stern. Definitely not the path of the heart, path of the mind, path of the ego. Every spiritual path should break you open. As Leonard Cohen sang, Everything was made to be broken because that's how the light gets in. Very beautiful. So, guys, I think with that, it's getting close to 6:20 here. I do my pre-bed routine, my breathing, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow. Flower, have fun in school tomorrow. Enjoy. Enjoy your friends. And Destiny, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Always appreciate you being here. I would not be here doing the stuff that I'm doing if it wasn't for you, my friend. And Queen Kaylin, thank you. And as always, our dear friend Destiny Forever Walks PhD and Squirrel Sniper, thank you for being here. Making sure I don't forget anyone. I never forget Mocha, of course. She's vital to the entire process. Even when she's not here, she is vital. And I think you guys probably know that. Flower says, enjoyed being here. Flower, I really enjoy you being here too. I appreciate it. Thank you. At least I will see you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll send you a message. And let me know. Send me a message. Let me know what's going on. How things are unfolding in your life. So, thanks, guys. Take care.